Alright Duval faithful, listen up, because we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And honestly, it's about time somebody set the record straight on our franchise quarterback Trevor Lawrence, because the national media keeps pushing this tired narrative that he's a bust. And frankly, that's complete garbage that ignores everything this man has been through since we drafted him first overall back in 2021. And yeah, I get it. The numbers from week 7 weren't pretty, finishing 23 of 48 for 296 yards with 1 touchdown and a 74.7 passer rating in that blowout loss isn't what any of us want to see on Sunday. But context matters. People context matters so much. And that's what these talking heads keep missing when they're sitting in their cushy studios throwing shade at our quarterback. Let's break down what Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports said, because he actually gets it. Even though he's critical, and rightfully so, about some aspects of Trevor's performance, he acknowledges the reality that calling Lawrence a bust is a massive overreaction. And here's why this matters so much for us as Jaguars fans. We've been through the ringer, watching this team struggle for years, and when we finally got our generational talent, our guy who was supposed to save the franchise, he walked into absolute chaos, and that Urban Meyer disaster in year 1 was something no rookie quarterback should ever have to endure. But Trevor toughed it out. And then we had that magical 2022 season under Doug Peterson, where everything clicked and we saw flashes of what Trevor could be when the pieces around him were working. Now look, the criticism about Sunday's game is valid, because 7 of his 12 completions and 111 yards came in the fourth quarter when we were already down 4 scores, and that's garbage time production that doesn't help us win football games. And yeah, there were multiple plays where Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter were running wide open down the field, and Trevor either didn't see them or couldn't connect. And that's frustrating as hell to watch, because we know BTJ has that burner speed, and Hunter is proving to be exactly what we hoped he'd be when we brought him in. But the ball just isn't getting there consistently enough. And when Trevor forces it to Thomas, sometimes Hunter is the better option, and vice versa. And that hesitation, that inconsistency is holding back what could be an explosive offense. But here's where we need to pump the brakes on the bust talk. Because in 5 seasons, Trevor Lawrence has already dealt with 3 different play callers, 3 different head coaches, and an organization that's been anything but stable. And that's not an excuse, it's a fact that matters tremendously when evaluating quarterback development, because consistency is everything at this position, and Trevor hasn't had any of it. And now he's learning Grant Udinski's offense, which is his 3rd offensive system in as many years. And yeah, the early returns haven't been promising, but give the man a chance to actually gel with the system before we write him off completely. The reality that some people don't want to admit is that Trevor Lawrence is absolutely a starting caliber quarterback in this league, and he's going to have a long career, whether it's here in Jacksonville or somewhere else, and calling him elite right now would be a stretch. We all know that. And honestly, calling him good might be generous based on what we've seen this season. But that middle ground between good and elite doesn't automatically mean bust. And that's the nuance that gets lost in these hot take driven conversations. Because the NFL isn't just about superstars and busts. There's a whole spectrum of quarterbacks who can lead teams to wins and manage games effectively, and Trevor falls somewhere in that range right now. What gives me hope, and what should give all of us hope, is that we've seen the ceiling with Trevor. We saw it in that comeback against the Chargers in the playoffs. We saw it in stretches of 2022 when he was slicing up defenses and making plays with his legs and his arm. And that version of Trevor Lawrence absolutely can lead this team to success. But we need stability around him. We need the offensive line to protect better. We need the play calling to be more creative and put him in positions to succeed, and we need our weapons to stay healthy. Because when everything clicks, this offense can be dangerous, and Trevor has shown he can be the catalyst. The frustration is understandable because we're not winning games right now, and the offense looks disjointed, and there are way too many 3-and-outs and way too many drives that stall in the red zone. And Trevor has to shoulder a big part of that blame because he's the quarterback, he's the leader, he's the guy who gets paid to make the right decisions and elevate the players around him. But writing him off as a bust after 5 years in one of the most unstable situations any top pick has faced is short-sighted and frankly lazy analysis from people who aren't watching every snap like we are. Think about the trajectory here. Year 1 was a disaster with Urban Meyer and a terrible roster. Year 2 showed improvement under Doug Pederson with a 9-win season and a playoff appearance. Year 3 started strong before injuries derailed everything. And now we're in year 4 with new coordinators, again trying to find our identity. And through all of that chaos, Trevor has still shown flashes of brilliance mixed with the inconsistency. And that's the Trevor Lawrence experience right now. But the foundation is there. The arm talent is undeniable. The intelligence is there. The leadership is there. And when he's on, he can make every throw on the field. What we need to see is more consistency and better decision making, especially on those plays where receivers are running open and the ball needs to get there. And Trevor needs to trust his reads and let it rip instead of second guessing or forcing throws into coverage, because we have the weapons now, with BTJ emerging as a legitimate number 1 threat and Hunter showing versatility and Evan Engram being reliable underneath. And when Christian Kirk gets back healthy, we'll have even more options. So there's no excuse for the offense to be this stagnant, and Trevor has to be the one to unlock it, because that's what franchise quarterbacks do. They make everyone around them better and elevate the entire unit. The offensive line struggles are real, and Trevor is getting pressured way too much, and that affects everything from timing to confidence. And when you're constantly under duress, it's hard to go through your progressions and find the open man. And we've seen Trevor take some unnecessary sacks instead of throwing the ball away. And those negative plays kill drives and put us behind the chains. And that's something he needs to clean up immediately, because field position matters and keeping the offense on schedule matters, and those little things add up over the course of a game. But despite all the issues, despite the ups and downs, despite the frustrating performances we've seen this season, calling Trevor Lawrence a bust is absolutely ridiculous, because a bust is a quarterback who can't stay on the field, can't run an offense, can't make NFL throws. And that's not Trevor. He's proven he can do all those things. He just needs to do them more consistently. And that comes with experience, with stability, with better coaching, and with better execution from everyone around him. And that's what we're fighting for right now as an organization, to create that environment where Trevor can thrive. The comparison to other recent number 1 pick quarterbacks is interesting because some have succeeded immediately, like Joe Burrow, who went to a stable organization with a great offensive mind and weapons, and some have struggled, like the quarterbacks who went to dysfunctional situations and never recovered. And Trevor is somewhere in between. He's not a Burrow level talent yet, but he's also not a complete failure. And that nuanced take is what we need more of, instead of the binary bust or superstar discussion, because real life doesn't work that way. And quarterback development is messy and non-linear, especially when the situation around the player keeps changing. What excites me moving forward is that we finally have the defensive pieces to be a competitive team. And if the offense can just be average, if Trevor can just manage games and make the right throws when they're there, we can win a lot of games in this division, because the AFC South is wide open. And we've seen this team compete with anybody when everything clicks. And that's the potential that keeps us believing, that keeps us showing up every Sunday, whether we're at the bank or watching from home, because we know what this team can be when it all comes together. The urgency is real because we're running out of time in this season, and every game matters, and Trevor needs to step up now. Not later, not next season, but right now, because we have the talent, we have the coaching, we have everything we need to make a run if everyone does their job. And that starts with the quarterback making the right decisions, getting the ball to our playmakers, and leading this team to victories. Because that's what we drafted him to do. That's what we're paying him to do. And that's what Duval deserves after years of suffering through terrible football. So no, Trevor Lawrence is not a bust. He's a work in progress in a difficult situation. And while that's frustrating, it's also reality. And reality is that we need him to be better. We need him to take that next step and become the quarterback. We all believe he can be because the ceiling is still there. The talent is still there. And when he puts it all together, this offense can be special. And this team can compete for championships. And that's what we're all waiting for. That's what keeps us invested. And that's why we'll keep believing in Trevor Lawrence even when the national media wants to tear him down. Because we see more than just the box score. We see the context, we see the potential, and we see our franchise quarterback. Key names mentioned in this piece include Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars franchise quarterback drafted first overall in 2021, Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports, who provided analysis defending Lawrence against bust narratives, Brian Thomas Jr., who is emerging as a top receiving threat, Travis Hunter, who has shown versatility in the offense, Grant Udinsky, the current offensive coordinator, Doug Peterson, the head coach, Urban Meyer, the disastrous first-year head coach, Christian Kirk, the injured receiver, and Evan Engram, the reliable tight end, all of whom play crucial roles in understanding Trevor Lawrence's development and the current state of the Jacksonville Jaguars offense through the first 7 weeks of the season. Summary of the article centers on defending Trevor Lawrence against the bust narrative by acknowledging his struggles, including a poor Week 7 performance where he went 23 of 48 for 296 yards, but arguing that calling him a bust ignores the context of 3 head coaches, 3 offensive coordinators, and organizational instability in 5 years, while recognizing he's a starting caliber NFL quarterback who hasn't reached elite status, but still has potential to succeed with better consistency and a more stable situation around him in Jacksonville. If you're riding with Trevor and believe he can turn this season around, make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit the like button, and let's build the strongest Jaguars community on YouTube, because we need all of Duval united right now. Here's my question for you. Do you think Trevor Lawrence can still become an elite quarterback with the Jaguars? Drop in the comments. Option A, yes, he just needs more time and stability. Or option B, no, his ceiling is just an average starter. Let's get that discussion going, Duval.